Yes, it's all there. There are like 4 or 5 movies about that case.
I guess the thing that's probably the most, right away, shocking is this man was Jewish. That caused these people to do these heinous things to his property and to create all this craziness in his life. What? Why?
Well,
What's the point?
Well, hatred is the point.
How long have you known the Prescotts?
Oh, to know the Prescotts, I knew his father years ago, but back in the 70s and 80s, but I've known Don actually as a friend and neighbor since I bought that.
If you can you describe your relationship with Don and Julie Prescott?
Very good. Very good. Friends and neighbors.
Find him to be a good neighbor?
Oh, yeah.
Did you find Scott Hyman to be a good neighbor?
Yes. Always treated me fine.
Mr. Langley, since, can you describe for me, as best you can, prior to 2005, the level of activity that you personally observed of association members using the right-of-way?
Practically nil.
I think this is something that the Civil Rights Bar needs to hop on and really embrace.
It's not one of those subject areas in the law that has, let's say, a lot of sex appeal to, I think, the general populace. So that's, and maybe that's the limiting factor with the mainstream press. They'd much rather cover a disastrous auto accident or something along those lines, or that than cover something that is as deeply rooted in our society, and there is no simple answer. It's not just reporting, oh, this car hit this car and an oil tanker turned over. This is a complex issue, but it's an issue that really is not dealt with on a regular basis by the mainstream media.
Well, I thank you too for your time, and that's why I'm here. KingCast.net.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
You're the king.
Just trying to get there, trying to make a difference. And,
You are. It's good.
Thank you.
congratulations again.
Thank you. Ms. Prescott, yesterday you testified that you felt that you were under constant surveillance because of Ms. Ladino.
Yes.
As a result of that, did you change in any way the way you used your property?
Yes.
How did you change it?
I don't use it like I used to use it.
Do you go out on the deck as often?
I do behind my privacy lattice.
Well, what did you do to try to prevent her from taking your photos while you were out on the deck?
Put up the privacy lattice.
Lastly, Ms. Prescott, was it Ms. Ladino's size or stature that caused you to feel uneasy?
No.
Christopher King, thank you so much for joining us again on Capital Access.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
All men have certain natural, essential, and inherent rights, among which are the enjoying and defending of life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and in a word, of seeking and obtaining happiness.
But the Hemlock Association is a homeowners circle that basically was found guilty of discriminating against this Jewish man to the tune of a record $1.7 million jury verdict last year. Wow. Okay, during the summer. And we're talking urine, feces in the house, swastikas, all kinds of things. And the guy was building a home on an island, and they didn't like him there, and they got very ugly. So there have been a couple different lawsuits over this. And so after he won the $1.7 million, by the jury verdict this summer. Of course, the defendants filed for a judgment notwithstanding the verdict and filed for a new trial, things of that nature. And there it sat for several months. And this has been since July, I think July 23rd they filed that motion. And so now the court set a hearing today, and I wanted to get some footage of that before I came up here, because I've been following this case. I've made a couple different movies about that case as well.
So what do you guys think is going to happen today? Any comment, any thoughts?
What do you think is going on?
Is it?
I don't know why it's dragged on this long. It's a shame. It's a shame.
Attorney Serkey, I sincerely hope that your motion for a new trial and for a judgment notwithstanding the verdict is not sustained. I understand that you have made disparaging remarks about me to the court while I was not there. Sir, I gave you equal and full opportunity to make a comment. And now, having failed to do so, you now say that Scott Hyman has unfairly used the media to his advantage. Let me tell you something. Scott Hyman didn't hire me. I've been following this case for a long time, since I was a zoning manager for a telecommunications company down there in Raynham, Mass. So I've been following on my own accord. You could have spoken to me, but you failed to do so. Meanwhile, I watched you attempt to make Scott Hyman the evil person in this whole thing. You attacked the victim, and it failed before the jury, and it should fail at subsequent courts of appeal. Have a nice day. Good day, counselors.
How you doing?
Good. Any comment on the proceedings today?
Feel good about it.
Very well. Your clients are inside. I have to run up to Concord for a taping for a show there.
No.
Almost no one throughout the whole country goes into courtrooms with the experience of having been a trial attorney. And I've won a number of criminal defense and civil rights cases, settled other ones, lost a couple, that happens. But nobody takes that experience and starts making video in local courtrooms and analyzing what's going on and informing the public. So it's a thankless job.
And we don't have free press anymore. That's just in the Constitution. But it's this conglomerate. They've pulled all these press media centers together so that nobody.
Now that we're in the new electronic age.
I do. For me personally, I know that on a couple occasions I did review your coverage of the trial, and I was able to gain a different perspective with respect to some of the examinations and the testimony, and to evaluate that with a different set of eyes from the eyes that you have when you're actually performing the examination or just in the courtroom, whoever's performing the examination. So I thought it was extremely helpful.
Attorney Kuzma, do you think that this type of broadcast journalism could be beneficial for attorneys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a definite future for it. This is the first time that I had a chance to actually go back to my office and review some of the film from that day. I think it gives you a little twist on things that you don't get even when you're there live and questioning someone. You get the big picture, you see the widescreen at times, and I think it was helpful, and I think there's a future in it, and I think it could be a useful tool to use, especially when you have these lengthy trials like we did. It does give a different perspective on the day's events, and you can actually step back and analyze even the way the witnesses are answering questions. that you may not get even when you're doing the questioning. So I think it's a valuable tool. It's basically a tool of the future.
Do you have any thoughts today, Mr. Prescott?
Well, I don't mind saying I'm a little nervous, but confident that my lawyers have done a good job and the jury has made the right decision, and hopefully the judge will do the same.
What would you be nervous about? I mean, you've done nothing wrong.
Just nervous that sometimes the system doesn't always come through, but most of the time it does, so I'm hopeful.
Well, frankly, I am as well, and I'm entitled to have an opinion as a journalist, and I think that basically what happened here is, I think the defense counsel, his argument kind of works against him, because he's arguing that things should not have been admitted that were admitted, but at the same time, had they, I beg your pardon? Oh, not in the hallways? Oh, that's too bad. Let me wrap up then. Yeah, at the same time, I think the issue is that he would have committed malpractice for allowing those things in, and that's his own problem. So we'll see what happens.
Issue that caused these people to do these heinous things to his property and to create all this craziness in his life. What? Why?
Well,
What's the point?
Well, hatred is the point, but I guess, it was indisputable that he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And that area had restrictive covenants there as well. And there are a lot of restrictive covenants down in Massachusetts people would be surprised to find out about. There are anti-black, anti-Jewish, a number of them. Now, that area did not have anti-black covenants, but it did have anti-Jewish covenants in this day and age.
In order to own a home here, you must not be Jewish?
The property shall not be conveyed to a person of the Hebrew race, period.
Wow.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's out there.
Not
And
the
I
kind
have...
of organization I'd want to join.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Well,
So isn't that race, creed,
Religion, all of the above.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, it's
Wasn't there
crazy.
something in the New Hampshire Constitution about that?
Yes, but this was in Massachusetts.
And they may have a constitution that does them no good.
Yes. Let's get that right.
And we all...
So he had done nothing wrong. These people just had an issue with his heritage and decided to do these things in this crazy way. And what has come of it?
Well, like I say, they had, there were a number of legal wranglings that happened before this year, but what happened this year was a jury trial. He got burned out of one of his homes, by the way, and the jury finally found that the Homeowners Association was responsible for some of this activity. Now, there comes a question of payment, what would happen at that point, but right now the lawyers we're in court today defending the verdict.
Right.
And they're going to see what happens. I don't know what happened. I'm going to find out later on tonight when I call Mr. Hyman to say, hey, look, Scott, what happened today in the trial? Or not the trial, but in the wrap-up. Is there going to be a new trial? Did the judge overrule their motions? What happened today? Because essentially, without getting too far into this case, I want to talk about the mortgage movies we're doing. But essentially, what the defense counsel is arguing there is that the jury should not have heard about a number of things. The jury should not have heard, for example, about the swastikas, about windows that were broken, the urine, the feces that were on his doors, all these kinds of things. They should not have heard
They're
about
not relevant to the discrimination?
Well, here's the issue. His argument is that they shouldn't have heard about them, but the problem is he did not object to them coming in. See, he's saying that there was never a causal. He's saying that there was not enough causal to show that anyone from the Homeowners Association did these things. So the jury was impermissibly aligned or influenced by hearing of these things. But the problem is, in Massachusetts, you have to object. And I was there for a number of days of trial. I don't think he ever objected to those things coming in. So he's kind of setting himself up for a malpractice case with that argument, but that's neither here nor there at this point.
People who want to see what actually came of this, they can go to KingCast.net.
Oh yes, that's right. Right,
Okay,
yes.
great. And so let's talk about mortgage movies.
Yes.
Let's talk about what you're doing in that sphere.